Good morning. We are going to get started. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty there with Zoom, so sorry for the late start. But I just want to wish everybody a happy National School Counseling Week. It is exciting. Anybody who wants to turn on their cameras can. This is a very informal coffee talk. So feel free to turn your cameras. If you cannot, that's fine. You can listen as we talk. My name is Amanda Callahan. I coordinate the Counselor Connect initiative, which is an initiative brought to you by the Central Indiana Educational Service Center. And today's event, and really all of the coffee talks this week, are co-sponsored by ISCA. So I know we have Dana Nelson. She's been a great helper as we planned for the coffee talks this week. And thought it made sense to partner up with ISCA because this week we will be talking to the ISCA Exemplary School Counselor Award recipients from each of the levels. So really excited for this week. I'm excited to hear from the different counselors. So again, informal conversation. I do have a little list of questions that I will be asking, but please feel free to jump in if you want to put a question in the chat. If you want to hear more information about something that Erin shares today, please feel free to just jump right in and ask. Okay. So with that, I am going to go ahead and share my screen just so you can see a couple of quick things here. All right. So again, happy National School Counseling Week. I think this is an awesome week to be able to celebrate not only the wonderful things and services provided by school counselors, but also it's a great week to educate on our role, what we do. It's so important. So many people, even people in the schools, don't always know exactly what we're trained to do and what we're capable of doing. So it's a great week to honor our role, but also to educate and advocate on our role. So glad you're here. Glad you're here to join us. I'm gonna go ahead and introduce our counselor for today, our award recipient. Erin Munson is an elementary school counselor and received in the fall at the ISCA conference, received the Exemplary Elementary School Counselor Award. So welcome, Erin. I'm going to actually go ahead and just hand it right over to you to introduce yourself, share a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Where are you at? What is your role? And anything else you want to share to introduce yourself?
Okay, I'm going to try to share my screen. And yes, I think you should now be able to see some things about me. Good morning. Glad, very honored to be here amongst other like-minded people. That doesn't happen very often in my role, being the solo school counselor in my building. My current position is actually in Indianapolis Public Schools, and we are technically a pre-K through 8th grade building. So although I was very honored to receive the Elementary School Counselor of the Year award, I also am the middle school counselor. Just got finished doing high school applications with our 8th grade students. Our school is unique because we have a partnership with Butler University. There are several tiers of public schools here in Indianapolis where you have what we call the neighborhood schools in IPS, where those are just what you would think of as the typical traditional public schools. Then we also have magnet schools, which are still 100% public. But they have a specific way that all of the teachers in the building teach their curriculum. And you have to apply. A parent has to apply to a lottery system to be able to go here. It's free, so it's not like a private school at all. Still uses public funding, but we do only have so many seats. Right now this year we cap at 405, students in our building. And then there are other tiers with like innovation schools and charter schools that may or may not follow the traditional public school calendar. So just that explanation, we are a magnet school, so students and families do have to apply to come here. But we do the Reggio Emilia philosophy, which if anyone has been a part of the Butler education, the Butler College of Ed, that's how they teach the Butler up and coming teachers. That's the curriculum and the way that Butler teaches. And so Dr. Ina Shelley, who was the brainchild behind this way of teaching here in IPS, she brought that here. And that is how our Butler partnership was born. So we do have a lot of Butler student teachers, and I have at least one Butler intern every year in the school counseling role because of Butler's wonderful school counseling program. And I think that I even saw one of my former interns on here. So hello, Hannah. So yes, I am a Butler University graduate many times. My undergrad is in music education, and then I went back to get my master's in school counseling. And then just for fun, I went back to finish my licensed mental health counselor certification. So I am also an LMHC, a licensed therapist here in the state of Indiana. That's been helpful because those of us who have worked in education understand how you never have enough money. And that was such a good thing for me to do. So in the evenings on Tuesdays, I run some groups here in Indy privately that started with the ministry. It's no longer a part of the ministry, but I'm still running the groups on Tuesday nights on Zoom. And that's been such a gift too, to be able to not just work with children all day, but I also get to work with adults. This is my 16th year in education. 9 of those have been as a school counselor. 6 of those were as a music teacher. I am married. I also have my motorcycle license. One of my best friends was having a midlife crisis during COVID and decided to get his motorcycle license and asked me to join him. So I just supported his midlife crisis and now reaping the benefits. Both of my children currently do attend my school where I'm the school counselor, and that is wonderful and also can be a challenge because of the dual relationship. So whenever my intern is here, if my children, which they sometimes do need some counseling support, I have my interns do that, which probably makes them nervous, but also it's better because dad being the counselor doesn't always work well. And just some fun facts about me. Our friends have nicknamed us the Funsons because I work really hard, but I also play really hard. I love traveling, love experiences. We're a little bit insane, try to be creative and foster that creativity with my children. So these pool pictures here were a cardboard regatta with some of our closest friends that live in our neighborhood, where we built cardboard boats and tried to sail them across the pool. My team did win, not because any of the boats actually floated, because not one did, but our boat was longer. So also being a music teacher, my passion and love for music is still there and won't go away. So I really try to find lots of enriching music experiences for my kids and for myself. In this picture in the top right corner, that is a miniature poodle. Her name is Lucy, and Lucy is now a therapy dog at our school. So we got her licensed, which was a pretty easy process. It's different than a service dog because that is a strenuous process. But a therapy dog, their role is just to provide comfort to people. And I was able to get Lucy licensed, which was my daughter's idea, actually. Libby is 11. And we got Lucy during the pandemic, and I wanted to name her Rona, but no one was having that. So Lucy is her name instead. And my daughter was like, you know, Lucy brings me so much joy because she's so peaceful and calm. I think she should be a therapy animal and she should come to school. And I was like, well, okay, what a great idea. And we went with it. And so Lucy is here on Mondays and Fridays. I would show her to you right now, but my office is currently being used by Lucy and my intern and a student. So that student is in need of Lucy more than I am. So you won't get to meet Lucy on this call, unfortunately. But I'm going to stop sharing my screen and turn it back over to Amanda in case if you want to guide whatever is coming next. I'm happy to answer any
Sure.
questions.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that background. Like, enjoyed hearing about you and your family and everything. And Lucy, man, I'd like a therapy dog of my own. That'd be great. So I'm sure the kids love that. So great idea by your daughter. Um, so thanks for telling us a little bit about yourself. Quick question before we go into some of the other deeper questions, but you may have said this. What is your current ratio, your student to counselor
Um,
ratio?
Good question. So we have a total of 405 students. Sorry, I'm in our copy room
Oh, you're fine.
because our building is at capacity and my office is being used. So I'm in here and people just keep coming in. So mask up, mask down. Anyway, um, the current ratio is 405 to me, technically. However, we have, it's an odd situation because we have a counselor assistant right now who, it's in essence a paid internship. Um, but it's a little bit bizarre because the person who has that role right now is technically a licensed school counselor, but didn't really get to finish their internship because of the pandemic and because of some health issues with that particular person. So that person decided to stay on another year and is suffering with like no pay because I mean, it's a paid internship for an unlicensed position, even though they're licensed. So technically, I guess we could say that we're like 202 to 1,
Okay.
but it doesn't feel that way because it still feels very much like it's an intern. Lots of like coaching, lots of teaching, lots of guiding, as opposed to equal professionals at this time.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, thank you for sharing that. I was just
Yeah.
curious with your grade level split and everything in your particular building.
Mhm.
So tell us, I'm curious, tell us a little bit about how your journey as a school counselor began or why you decided to become a school counselor.
Sure. And I'm sure depending on the age of some people on this call or who might hear, um, I'm old enough to name the fact that I did not know my school counselors when I was growing up until I was in high school. And it was the school counselors who helped with like the testing and SATs and ACTs. That was my interaction. Um, I really went to get my master's in something in education. So that's why it started. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to do because I was like, a master's in ed just seems kind of, what do you do with that? I don't want to do that. I also have no desire to be an administrator. I do not want to be a principal. No, thank you. And then I saw like that Butler had the school counseling program, and I was like, well, I wonder what that would be like. And the more I looked into it, the more I was like, this fits my personality so much better. Where we talk about, I mean, I'm a music teacher, right? I'm the creative soul, and I was like, we work on feelings, we're social emotional learning support, and super organized because we have to help with scheduling in high school and like future oriented things for children. So I kind of stumbled into it, and I'm really glad that I did because it is such a good fit for who I am as a person. Um, I needed to get my master's like start the process within 2 years of graduating because we wanted to have a family and it would boost my pay a little bit. And just teacher pay was at that time in 2006 was even more atrocious than it is now. So that's how all of that started, and why I'm here today at the Butler Lab School, because I've been a counselor in several different buildings, because I have worked in private school. I also have worked in the suburbs, and my passion and my gifting um, is geared more towards places where there are high needs. Um, I functioned in every role that I've been in, whether a music teacher or a counselor in any of the districts I worked at, but I didn't feel like I was thriving until I started working with um, uh, adverse populations, socioeconomically challenged families, supporting them, advocating for students of color. Those things didn't exist in the private school or the suburbs here in Indianapolis. That just wasn't a thing. And then I came here, and it just like I also live in Indianapolis, and this is just so much more of a good fit for me. And I feel like I'm alive. And anyway, I could ramble about that for a very long time, but I'll pause.
Well, I would say your students, families, staff are lucky that you fell into this profession. So that's great, and how amazing that this is such a good fit, and not something necessarily when you were younger or even in high school you thought about doing. So
Yeah.
so that's a pretty cool story. My next question would be, and again, feel free, anybody, if you want to know something specific or have a question for Aaron, please feel free to put it in the chat or chime in. But my next question would really be around this award that you received from ISCA. So what was it about you or your program that helped to get you nominated for the award?
So that is a good question, and I am going to share some guesses because I don't know, because I didn't see the other applicants who I'm sure were as deserving. I think perhaps again, like I don't want to diminish or make anyone who might be hearing this feel less than the good gift that they are, because I know that in this role, we are all working, like it is the busiest office in the school and is the office where the most needs come. For me, especially during the pandemic, which I'm guessing maybe set me apart a little bit, was because I work with such a big district that is not able to, I feel like, ever really be proactive. It's often more reactive. During the pandemic, we started school 2 weeks later than we were supposed to in order to give our school personnel time to get devices from this grant to be able to then have families come and pick up these computers so that we could start school virtually. The problem with that was, who was going to train the families? We literally, like, of course, we printed off all the documents and all the instructions, but during the pandemic, what family, what parent is able to be fully present with their child, teaching them how to do all of these things at school, at home, on their computer, while they're also trying to work from home? Like, it was just, it was a nightmare. And attendance, whether I like it or not, attendance is one of, in my district, is one of the pieces of evaluation for school counselors. So my pay is tied to our school's attendance, which is just asinine, but it's true. And when we have kids that are just not showing up and not showing up, and the reason that they're not showing up is because they are logging into Schoology, where that's where all the classwork is supposed to be done. But Microsoft Teams, which is such a terrible program anyway, Microsoft Teams is where you're supposed to interact with your teacher, and that's where attendance is taken. But in the 50 papers that we sent home to the families, they didn't know any of that. So during the pandemic, I'm the first semester, and it slowed down a little, but I ended up doing 96 home visits last year, because I would call the families and they're like, we're trying, we don't know what to do. And I would have to go and teach them, and I'm decent with technology, thank goodness, and teach them how to access the curriculum, the difference between these two platforms, how one is for attendance, one is for grades, doing all of those home visits. And then like that turned into like giving my Google Voice number, so not my cell phone, but my Google Voice number, to the whole school, so that families and students, when they're home, could contact me if there were problems. And then it kept going like back and forth between virtual and in person. It was a lot. I think that the other thing that maybe set me apart, in addition to doing that, was a couple of things. Number one, I use data all the time. Every time that there's a student in my office, I code that. I keep record of the number of minutes and number of interactions that I have with parents, the number of lessons that I do in every classroom, the consultations that I have with teachers. I keep all of that data. And then every quarter, I submit a data summary report to my entire school community and our district leaders, so that they know that this is the busiest office in the building. That data was one of the things that helped me help my principals see what counselors should and could be able to do. And that is how I ended up having a paid intern, was through that, because they were like, you are doing so much. And I was like, yes, and I could be doing more, but when I only have me with 400 kids, like, this is just what I get, and this is what you get. And we need to be proactive, not reactive all the time. Anyway, that helped. And then also my peer mediation program that I run, we currently have 63, I'm sorry, some moved. We have 59 peer mediators in our school, from 3rd grade through 8th grade. And so that was a 93, I think last semester, 93% reduction in office referrals. When I say office referrals, I don't mean like you have to go to the principal. When I say office referral, I mean the kids are having a conflict, the teacher doesn't have time to deal with it. And so before the peer mediation program, guess who would have to deal with this conflict that sometimes was really just a 5-minute conversation so that both sides could be heard, and let's move on with our day. So now that has freed up so much of my time to be able to support some higher needs, because those low-level conflicts are handled by our trained peer mediators. So those are some things that I'm educatedly guessing might have set me apart, knowing that I'm sure that many of the people who are hearing this do some of the very same things that I do.
Well, that's great. Love all that. And a couple of things as you were sharing, I was thinking about. First of all, some people on the call may want to know what time tracker you use. You mentioned you keep track of your time, you keep track of all your data. Is there a specific resource that you use for that? Do you use the Ask a Time Use tool? Have you created your own tool, or what do you use for that? Oh no, I think he froze. Oh, there he is. You're back.
Yeah, my computer is, I know, it says my internet connection is unstable. That's because our building is like from 1945 and everything is cinder block walls. It's not nice. Anyway, so I can show you, it is a tracker that I made and have adjusted and edited over the years. So I'm going to try to show, or share my screen. Let me see here, share my screen. I think that now you can see it. So here it is. I call it my counseling log. And you can see, I'm going to go, oh my gosh, I need to move this out of the way. All right. Down here, there are tabs. So we're at quarter 3. So every time that I meet with a student, I just put their last name, first name. And I do share this with my administrator because it does not breach confidentiality, because they know that I work with every student in the building, not always individually, but every student knows my name, because I do at least once a month, I visit every classroom to do a social emotional learning lesson. So all the kids know me. It's not a surprise. The way I keep this confidential is this R1, R2, R3. Those are the reasons, 1, 2, and 3, that I would be meeting with that student. And I have it's like being a spy. It feels very fun. Where I have the record of what the codes are. So only I know why I met with the student, to keep it confidential. For example, well, I don't even want to read them, because in case whoever this recording gets out to, I'm going to keep it confidential. And then you can see here, every time I have a parent contact, I put, if it's a text message, an email, a phone, voicemail, attempted call, home visits, the HV right here that I did last week when I was delivering food before the storm hit. Every time that I do that, how long it takes to do those things, keep track there. My small group counseling, I call them lunch bunches because I run them during lunch. And during the lunch times, this is really just an attendance keeper, so that I know who's here and who's not. So I have that all sorted by which days I'm meeting with them. Consultations, I will admit this is my area of weakness, because it happens so often throughout the day that unless it's more of like a 10 to 15 minutes of like meeting with this teacher about this situation, I don't put all the consultations in here that I do. I just don't, because it is, I mean, I've already had 3 today and I haven't put one in, because they were just like 3 like things about students and supporting them. And then I also have my classroom lessons. So every time that I do classroom visits, I keep track of that here. I got a little bit lazy, admittedly, because we have 19 classrooms. So like September, I just put all, I know that it's anti-bullying part 2 in September. And I just put 19 instead of putting all of the teachers' numbers and everything. But this is the tracker that I created to help with the insanity of my own schedule. And also it was free, which I would really someday love to be able to invest in Scuda. But having to learn that from the beginning when I have something that I've made work for me, I feel like would have been a little overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Sure. And then just the other thing, as you were sharing about COVID and the pandemic and doing all of those home visits in the beginning. I'm sure, obviously, you were helping with that technology piece, but what a great, opportunity, I guess, to be able to visit with those families and have them see your face and know who you are. And so, gosh, what a blessing for those families during that really difficult time to have that. So that's pretty awesome. I thought that was pretty cool. Staff collaboration. I know you just shared that you go visit you visit classrooms at least once a month. Is there anything else that you do that where you really collaborate quite a bit with staff that you can think of and teachers?
I meet with, lots and lots of things. They come to me regularly about almost anything. Sometimes I wish that they would try to solve that on their own. But I would not say that to them. It's, just like a student who wants to talk to me where I'm like, you don't really need to. Anyway, we do like staff meetings, and I am occasionally a part of those staff meeting times that we meet, and we'll present. I had to do with our we have 2 buildings that are the Butler Lab schools. Ours is the second campus. When we do PD days, I am almost every time, at least once a year, having to present some professional development to both staffs. That has included things with self-care, student behavior, ACEs, trauma-informed care, and so many things. With the other pieces with the staff, I, for middle school, am a part of our middle school PLC time, which I think is helpful because we have a middle school, and them feeling like the staff seeing the counselor as an integral part of that is really critical, I think. And let's see, and those are like weekly things, in addition to I don't even know how to put that into words. Like, staff has my cell phone, they text me all the time. We use Voxer, which is a walkie-talkie app that also has texting features. That's how we communicate in our school. And every teacher has a crisis Voxer. And although it's not always used for crisis, I am on all of those Voxers. So I get hundreds every day of Voxers of various degrees of necessity. And so I will respond to the teacher in that, supporting them, supporting the student. I ask them at the beginning of the year and several times throughout the year, in addition to what I'm doing for the social emotional lessons when I visit, if they need additional lessons, I'm always happy to do it. Let me know what lessons you need. And so like I've got 5 teachers who have asked for an extra lesson in the next month or two that I'm working with my intern on writing that and scheduling a time to go visit the classroom to support the students and the teacher in that way. I mean, a lot. I also, because I was a classroom teacher and I have very good classroom management, I have, for some of our new teachers, been called upon on occasion to help coach with some transitions. So transitions in the classroom, out of the classroom, what works, what doesn't. And I know that that piece is not a school counseling role. At the same time, to me, it's like, if this is going to make my job easier in the long run, I would rather say yes to things I can as a proactive measure. So that kind of hopefully sums up the craziness of the schedule of every day.
Yeah, that's great. That the Voxer, that's interesting. Yeah, I bet that could be a great thing to use because it's quick and easy, you know, for staff to be able to reach you, I'm sure. But at the same time, yikes, I'm sure you do get a lot of messages each day.
Correct.
Let's see. And again, anybody have any questions, please feel free to drop those into the chat. I know your time is running short because you need to get to a something that came up in your building. So we have about maybe a little less than 10 minutes left with you. My next question, actually 2 questions kind of go together a little bit. First one is, in what ways do you advocate for the school counseling profession? And then kind of going along with that, how would you recommend school counselors get involved beyond their school or district?
Advocating for the school counseling profession, I would say, is I do that, especially with our district, by when there have been in the past, like summer PDs, where they've asked for presenters. I have occasionally volunteered to present because I think that every building needs to have a school counselor. Not every building does. In our district, at the elementary level, principals choose either a counselor or a social worker. So the job, it's one job that really should be 2 jobs that they've smushed into one. And so I also attend social work PDs and meetings because that's where I get information on attendance tracking and Title IX reporting, because I have to investigate all of those things when there are concerns in our building about that, because we don't have a social worker. So I advocate for those things. I also was on the district crisis team because our district is so big. We have students and staff that experience, the death of a staff member, or we had a student whose father was killed in a hit and run, and then the district crisis team will get called upon, and so I volunteered for that because that, even though it's spearheaded by social workers, there just needs to be counselor representation because it's something that we are very capable of addressing as well. And I also do an adjunct class at Butler. I teach the group counseling course on Tuesday evenings. And so I'm able to advocate for up and coming school counselors about the importance of this role. And with my school community, I advocate by sharing and being very open with my data. So I would say, if I were giving suggestions, number 1, the pandemic, if we can even find a gift in that, I agree with what you said, Amanda, that it was, even though it was hard and stressful, I am so grateful that I visited all of those families because the trust that has been built between myself and some of our most challenging students, I don't have those issues with the most challenging students anymore because I've been to their home. I've met their families, their brothers and their sisters, their aunties, their grandparents. That was such a gift. And so that, even though I know that not everyone is going to be able to do that, and I might not ever be able to do it again, it was one of the biggest ways that I could advocate for my role with our community. And also, I would say any time outside of your school that you are able to give, even committing to just being on a committee or something, any representation can help highlight the necessity of school counselors in buildings. So,
Thank you. That's
yes.
Awesome. Great answers. Great. You're so involved in so many ways, and that's really helpful. I'm going to kind of open it up to anybody to ask any questions, or Aaron, if there's something else I didn't ask that you'd like to share, or you think other counselors might be helpful for them to hear about your programming or anything like that, please feel free to share that now in these last few minutes before I know you need to jump off.
Yes. I have to leave in like 2 minutes because I had this whole hour blocked off, but I have to cover indoor recess duty because of COVID. And also, whenever it's too cold to go outside because of COVID, we can't put our students in the same classroom. So we have to have an adult manage each classroom. Other than that, I don't know that I have any parting words of wisdom, except that someday in an ideal world, I would love to work in a building at this age level where we have a counselor and a social worker. It would just be wonderful because there's so many of those pieces that overwhelm me because it takes away from doing the individual counseling sessions and running the lunch groups. And that just makes me so sad and frustrated on the regular. So I wish for that. I don't know that it'll ever happen because of funding, but I still am hopeful that it can happen someday. All right.
Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know you need to step off. If everybody wants to stand for just a couple more minutes, I do have a couple things to close the session. But Erin, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much, and have a fabulous school counseling week.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Happy School Counseling Week.
Thank you. I'm going to share my screen real quick and close this out here. I wanted to share there is a photo challenge this week for National School Counseling Week that ASCA is hosting. So if anybody wants to get in on that, the slide here kind of shares some of the details, which you can find on the ASCA National School Counseling page. I will share that Aaron answered Monday's challenge here. He put in his quote for school counselors and other school-based mental health professionals are better together because. So he filled in the blanks there for us on what he thought was a good answer. Here are the instructions on how to get involved in that challenge. But again, you can find information on the ASCA website. Do want to let you know that the rest of the week, we do well through Thursday. We do have each morning, we will be talking to a different school counselor who received one of the exemplary awards at the ISCA conference, at annual conference. So tomorrow is Tuesday, and we will be talking with Karen, who received the middle school award. Wednesday, we will be talking to Lydia. She was the Trailblazer school counselor. And then Thursday, we will be talking to two different counselors. They received the high school exemplary award in 2020 and then in 2021, as well as the counselor of the year in Indiana. So be sure to tune in for some of these other coffee talks this week. I think it will be really great information, and I'm sure you'll get some new, fresh ideas as well. National School Counseling Week is linked here, as well as the ISCA award nominations for 2023. I think if you are on the Counselor Talk listserv, I believe there was just a message that went out about this morning. So nominations are open. Yes,
Can I pop in? Sorry. I'm the
Yeah.
communications chair for ISCA.
Oh, yes,
so
yes, please
the
do.
award nominations email did go out on Counselor Talk. And with the photo prompts on Twitter and Facebook, on Twitter, just make sure you tag us at ISCA, and on Facebook, there will be a post every day where you can post those photos with the photo prompts in the comments. We are giving away a gift card each day to somebody who participates, and then we'll have one at the end of the week as well.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. I'll try and update the slide before tomorrow with that information too, with the ISCA tag.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. And then finally, we have here session evaluation from today. If you want to go ahead and complete the session evaluation, if you do want to receive PGP points for our hour together, this is how you would receive those. You fill out the session evaluation, and then you should receive a document with that PGP. Otherwise, we will have a recording of today, so I will share that link with you once it's ready. And then finally, we have some upcoming events here. We're doing a book study this month. Obviously, the remaining coffee talks this week. This afternoon, we have session 2 of the Comprehensive School Counseling series. And then a couple of other events we have posted on this slide as well. And then I'm going to go ahead and real quickly link in the session evaluation for you into the chat so that you have that. And with that, do I have any other questions for today or for any of the other upcoming events? Okay. If I don't, then we will go ahead and sign off. Thank you so much for joining us today, and have a wonderful rest of your day. If you don't join us the rest of the week, have a great National School Counseling Week. Thank you.
To say something. Hi, I'll be on tomorrow.